Joining me right now, this Thursday, you know I watch way too much television, and I'll be watching this too because Netflix has a bunch of shows on that I'm into right now, like The Circle. I don't know why I'm in it. I don't know why I'm into The Circle. I have issues, but I'm in it. And on Thursday, Jezebel kicks off on Netflix. And joining me now is the writer, the producer, the director, and co-star of Jezebel. She's here, Ms. Numa Perrier.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, applause, yes.
Listen to you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you.
So I watched the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and it follows a young lady named Tiffany. She's 19. She just lost her mom. Am I getting this right?
Yeah,
she
you
just
got
lost
it.
her mom.
You got it.
And she's now doing something where she's naked and doing some sexy things in front of a camera. Sometimes
not.
Sometimes not. All right. This is semi-autobiographical, your life?
Yes, this is my life.
Okay.
I was one of the early cam girls in 1999.
1999.
Yeah, the early days
Okay.
of the internet.
Now, did your mom pass?
Yes, my mom passed away at that time. I was living with my sister, her boyfriend, my brother, and her son. 5 of us were living in a studio apartment in Las Vegas at this time. So it was
A lot.
going on at the time, yeah. And my sister was working as a phone sex operator, so that was actually kind of a hysterical thing.
In a studio apartment.
In a studio
Out of
apartment.
your studio apartment.
Yes.
What
Can
did
you
that
imagine?
No, I can't. No, but help
yeah,
me.
so
Help me. Walk
she
us
would
through
get
it.
on the phone. You know, she had different shifts depending on was she talking to someone in Europe or wherever. You know, she would have to take calls at different times. So we would either have to bounce and get out of there, or just stay, put our headphones on, try to turn TV up. But you know, you're hearing kind of all this like moaning and like, you know,
Did she have a corner of because studio apartments are like it's one room?
There was
Did
a
she go in
bit
the
of a
bathroom?
divider. There was
Okay.
a little bit of a divider. If something got real crazy, she would go in the bathroom. That's true. But you could still kind of hear it and know that it was going on. So it made for something very awkward, sometimes very funny, and sometimes just too much. We just had to leave, you know. But we also became kind of normalized for us. That's how, you know, she was keeping that roof over our heads.
So the money was good.
The money was okay.
Okay.
You know, the money was enough to pay the rent on Friday, and sometimes more and sometimes less. That's a hustle job.
And how old were you at the time?
19.
Oh, so it's okay. School not an option.
I was not in school at the time. I was really trying to figure out how to make my way to Las Vegas to do, you know, fulfill the dreams I wanted to fulfill as
Which
a
one?
filmmaker and an actor, everything that I'm doing today.
So you okay? All right. So let me back all the way
Yeah,
up.
back it
all right.
up.
So young Tiffany,
Mhm.
aka Numa.
Yes, Tiffany.
Tiffany. Was that the name that you used?
Well, I have 2 names because I was adopted when I was 2 years old. So I had the name that my adopted parents gave me was Tiffany. And so growing up, I was called Tiffany, and I brought that into the film as well.
All right. So walk us through. The scene that I saw, she shows up to this guy's place.
An
maybe it's a
office
an
at
office.
the time. It's an office building. You
Right.
actually they have cubicles, but instead of a desk in the cubicle, there's a mattress, there's a camera, there's a computer. You know, the computers from the old Dell computers from '99, 2000. It was that type of setup, and there were, you know, many different types of women working there, and all of us would kind of be in front of the camera together, just chatting with the guys in our bikinis. That's how it would work. And then one of the guys would say, "Oh, I want to talk to you privately," and then you would go to a private show and talk to them privately. Sometimes involving nudity, sometimes not involving nudity. The site that I was working on at the time was kind of specialized towards fetishes, so anything could go. Anything.
And it was
could
all
happen.
virtual. This
And it
was the
all-
early days of.
Try to imagine the early days of the internet. You can't see the other person. It's not like FaceTime where everything is real. It's not even real time. There's a delay, you know. So it's thinking of it as an early peep show, but you feel like you're in the room by yourself because they can't even hear you. You can't hear or see them. You're only typing back and forth. It's just a chat room. But you're in front of that screen as
Naked,
if you're in a
or-
peep,
right.
as if you're in a peep
Peep
show.
show.
Yeah.
Where did you find this job? Like, was it in the want ads? Like, I don't even know
It was
where
in
I
the
would
want
go. So what
ads.
was the description?
So because my sister worked in phone sex, she had friends, and you know your industry, and so when the internet came out, it became the phone sex business started to shift into this new space. Like, oh, you can go on the internet. This is the new thing. So that was not something. She had a young child at home. She wasn't gonna go and do that job, but she was like, hey, do you want to try this out? You should try it out. You should do it. And I was curious about it. I was curious. I was interested. I also wanted to make my own money, get out of that apartment, move to LA. And I said, okay, I'll get, with her encouragement, I'll go check it out. And I went and I was hired on the spot, basically. And then I was the only Black girl working there.
The trailer, and you guys can check it out on YouTube and other places, and you can follow the hashtag Jezebel movie on the Twitters, and you can follow Numa at Miss
Numa.
MISS Numa NUMA. There seemed to be trauma. There seemed to be trauma with Tiffany. There was scenes where she's krying, or she seems to not. What was going on there?
Yeah, there was trauma. There was a lot of trauma. I mean, our mother, we knew we were about to lose our mother. She was in the hospital in ICU. She had been there for a long time. We knew she had diabetic complications, and she just gone through, just the worst of that. She had an amputation. She was on a respirator. We were really kind of in a state of shock, but continuing to visit her every day, trying to see it through, and really not knowing what was going to be in any of our future. Just kind of looking at each other like, well, what's next? How are we going to manage this? How are we going to, handle our futures? So there was trauma, there's trauma and that type of grief and that type of loss, losing a parent at a young age.
But there was no trauma related to the sex work.
I'm not going to say there's no trauma related to it. For me, that it was more so a form of escapism to escape my grief and depression. I actually was having fun there. I was actually able to not think about what it was like going back to that studio apartment. That was more trauma filled for me, going back into that studio apartment and not knowing how to move my future forward. But when you're working as a cam girl, I'm the only Black girl there. Yeah, there were some really bad days, where people would, call me the N-word or, just be really abusive in ways. And there was really no regulation or structure around how to deal with that. So that was really part of my coming of age, learning how to stand up for myself and have standards for what I would and would not tolerate, even within that job where they think you should just tolerate anything.
What was your relationship with sex before you became a cam girl?
I had really only curiosity about sex. I was told not to do it. I wasn't a virgin, but I was not sexually active either at the time. So it was something that I was curious about but didn't have experience in. So it was almost like I was fulfilling things that were in my mind through the job, but in a virtual space, not fulfilling them in my real life. Yeah. So that was, I think that was an interesting kind of entry point into even just thinking about my sexuality, thinking about what I might like, what I don't like, what I could be interested in at some point. So
that's I'm not going to get into all of the Jezebel because you guys need to see it. And it opens on January 16th on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, if you don't, do the trial and then watch Jezebel.
That's right. Get that password, honey. Yeah. Just do what you got to do, okay?
You don't want to do it.
You don't want to miss it, so figure it out.
So I want to know Numa Perrier. Numa Perrier, who parlays this cam girl work into becoming a director, a producer, a writer, fulfilling her dreams in Hollywood. What was that journey?
So it's been a long path, and I've been working for a long time. I worked that job for almost 2 years. I really got out when the money got bad, which is interesting.
So how good was the money on a good day?
Well, okay, so $19.99, okay, $15 an hour, well, a lot more than minimum wage, plus you get $1 a minute And I was always talking to somebody. Like, I just had a knack for engaging people in conversation, and they would just stay on the line even longer, which is what you learn doing phone sex. A lot of the phone sex, you're not even necessarily talking about sex. You're just connecting with that person and keeping them on the line,
so 30 minutes you keep them on,
so
that's $30.
That's $30, boom, so it's like I had my
plus
base,
$15 an hour.
Plus my $15 an hour, okay? And then I negotiated higher pay. That's reflected in the movie as well. There was an incident at the job where I ended up negotiating a higher hourly rate for myself. So yeah, the money for me was, really good, pretty low cost of living in Las Vegas. But I knew that I wanted to keep moving, but sometimes I wonder if I would stay a little bit longer if the money didn't start to kind of crash.
Why did it start to crash?
Well, the industry became saturated. More and more people started having the internet. Technology started moving forward really quickly. And so that shifts
And there was no
things.
pivot within there, because I know, like, online porn is huge.
Oh, yeah.
We had Lisa Ann on a couple of weeks ago, who's, that basically is a camera, and her doing things to the camera. And bingo bango, making money.
Bingo bango, yes.
Bingo bango, you make money.
Bingo bango, yeah. Hey, cha-ching, get it. Work, honey.
Yes. So there was no thought for you to pivot, because you were like, I really don't want to do this anymore. This is what I always wanted to do.
Right, exactly. I've always known what I wanted since I was a young girl, 6, 7 years old. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I didn't know what that looked like in my future, but I knew that this is my path. This is my career path. I knew I was going to move to Los Angeles. I was going to get there at some point. So I did. I got there. I immediately got into class, started going to school, acting school, dance class. My acting school was also for directors. I didn't call myself a director at the time, but I was observing other directors directing actors, directing me, and I was listening to their critiques and just starting to kind of get the early bug for it, but I wouldn't have called myself a director for a few years until I made my first short film. I loved it, made more short films, started collaborating with other artists, started creating web series, just telling all kinds of stories, and a lot of it really dealing with Black women and intimacy, sexuality, our form as women. I've always been really interested in that space, and all of my work reflects that. So in the back of my mind, I always thought that moment in my life could make a good movie one day. So here we are. All of these years later, I finally said, I'm ready to make a feature film. I'm ready to really show the world what my aesthetic is, what my point of view is on this time of my life, but also to start healing myself and my sister through this work, through sharing this work, and not holding on to any stigma or secrecy around it.
What is she doing now, your sister?
My sister is a dominatrix. And she does a lot of financial domination, which is in the media a lot now.
What, financial domination?
Yes.
Does she throw money at people?
Oh, he over here nodding his head.
Why does he know this?
He knows.
Smith,
He knows.
why do you know this? Don't get off the mic. I don't want to know. I don't want. Yeah, friend of a friend. Okay, thank you.
Listen, it's a real thing. You would maybe be joyfully surprised to know all types of things that make people feel connected.
No, what is financial domination? Am I stealing your money? Well, what am I doing?
No, you're managing someone's finances. It can take on many different ways. You can.
So someone hands you their whole.
Sometimes maybe you put them on a budget where they want to be given an allowance.
I like this.
Okay. People, money represents power. And there are men and women, but this is mostly men that like to do this, that they kind of don't really know what to do with the power they have or the power that's projected on them. And they want someone to hold that power for them. And so
this
that's
is a job.
Yes, this is a business, honey.
We're going to talk off mic. 866-80182. I think I'd be really good at that. That's good. I need another hustle. Okay, we're going to talk off mic. Numa's here. Numa, you shut up, Smiz. Numa is here. You can follow her at Miss Numa Perrier, which I think is an amazing name. Is that your real name? Perrier?
Yes,
you just like
it is. It's
How
my
is this
real name.
possible? Okay.
I'm Haitian. That's a Haitian name.
Sac passe. All right. Yeah, so what did you learn in school? Because I think a lot of people, they have talent and then they just go in and they don't ever hone their talent. It's so frustrating to see people not go to school and learn the craft, whether we're talking music or whether we're talking acting. Like, what did you learn doing that?
I think the biggest thing I learned growing up through school, I'm talking about, grade school up through high school, the area where I was encouraged the most was in my writing, because I was writing since I was like 7 years old. I was writing books. People I was just prolific. I was just creating. So I was just writing books. I was actually writing novels as a little girl. Just had a huge imagination, and I was always really encouraged, to do journalism and creative writing. And no one ever said, "Oh, you could be a screenwriter or write." That was never presented to me as an option. I had to kind of find my way to that. But the base where I had my most encouragement was on the writing side. On the acting side, because of the small towns that I lived in, there wasn't a lot of encouragement there. It's like if we did a school play, I might be the tree or something, hey, right. Scarlett Johansson, yeah. But there was no chance to have like a real role. But as I became an adult, started kind of learning how this industry works, I started marrying those things together. Like, oh, I can write roles for myself. I can write roles for other people. Oh, it's called a series. I can write a series. Oh, let me get this software called Final Draft. I taught myself how to write inside of that software. Yeah, it's really been just kind of observing, learning on the job, but also taking classes. I put myself, through acting school and things like that. But yeah, I think that there wasn't a lot of representation. It was just a dream that I always had inside of me. It's just something I just knew from a young age.
We're talking with Numa Perrier. The screenwriting thing, because there are a lot of folks. I remember the day we were talking about voiceover work, and then the phone lines light up. And there's so many people listening who are voice actors, and that's not something people think about, because you always want to be in front of the camera. The writers make a good salary. I was telling people, Missy Elliott, before she became Missy Elliott, the person we know, was making bank and probably got the most of her money off of writing.
Right, and publishing deals.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Have you written on shows that we know, or written for movies and things that we would all know before this?
Well, I co-founded a company called Black and Sexy TV, which is rather well known, digital native. We started on YouTube. I wrote for almost every single series on there, and that's where I built the fan base that I do have. Most people did come to know me from that space. But again, digital native from YouTube, starting on YouTube and building from nothing all the way up to a growing, swelling fan base.
How did you get Jezebel done? Because that's the other thing. I need folks to understand the anatomy of a thing. What was the process to get this to Netflix, or first the big screen and then to Netflix?
Yes. Well, had to write. You got to have a script. So had to rally people around me who would encourage me, but ultimately had to discipline myself to not only get the pages out, but also to really dig deep and put my heart on that page. So you really, when you watch the movie, you're feeling my feelings. And that was really the first step. And then the second step was, okay, we got to schedule this. I had to go into producer mode. And because I've been producing and making short films and doing the web series for so many years, that was second nature to me. And I knew who to call, and I knew who to say, hey, I want to make my first feature film. And that really excited people, like, oh, okay, you big time now. You want to make a feature? We'll help you. We're going to help you.
What does that mean?
What does it mean to make a feature?
Yeah, so producing is, those are the people that go get the money.
Yeah, they go get the money, and they also connect things to make things happen. So if it's not the money, they're finding resources for you, and they're organizing the thing. That's what the producer does. So different type of producers. I got my producers on board. These are all mostly Black women who stepped up to say, Numa, we're going to help you do this. So a team of Black women producers. I found my star for my movie, Tiffany Tennille, and
who just happened to be named Tiffany.
And share a lot of similar personal biography. And we went to Las Vegas, and we filmed in the same apartment building that I lived in when I was 19.
What?
Yeah.
How's that possible? How is it still
Because
available?
Las Vegas does not change. Las Vegas is outside of the Strip is a very sad town that just doesn't progress. You know, the people who live in Las Vegas are kind of the forgotten the forgotten ones. It's the people who are traveling and the tourists that they're, you know, building new things for. So the apartment building was still there. That brought me a little bit of PTSD, just revisiting that place, because I remember it feeling so run down and me feeling like, oh, this place is so and I didn't know if was it as run down before, or do I see it with new eyes now? Like that's I was really trying to reconcile that, you know, because that's almost 20 years later.
Right.
You know, I was really trying to figure that out. Like, which one is it? Do I just see it differently, or was it this bad? You know, was it like this? And then we were able to film there, so that helped with production design. You know, the look of the film, it looks very authentic. You feel like you're in the 90s again. So then we got it to post-production, had to keep just raising money bit by bit along the way. I didn't have a chunk of money.
Right. How much did it cost all told?
Total was about $115,000. So that's a micro budget.
I was gonna say,
feature film.
I'm not saying that that's not bad, but that's manageable.
It's unheard of.
Yes.
Yeah.
You did a film for $115,000.
Thank you.
You better do that. Can she
Yes.
get some applause for that? I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. I
Numa
like
Perrier,
that. I like that.
yes.
Yes. Bring
Wow.
it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of it. And that, you know, I had experience in guerrilla filmmaking my whole life. And, you know, I've had experience in just making a shoestring work. So I knew that I could do it, and I was determined to do it. But the fact that it got done, I am really, really proud of that.
So how'd you get in front of Ava DuVernay?
So Ava, thank you, Ava. We've known each other kind of from a distance over the years. She did publicity on a feature film that I was a consulting producer on called A Good Day to Be Black and Sexy. And this was in 2008. And so we knew each other to a certain degree over the years, always, you know, kind of keeping tabs on each other to a certain degree. And I watched her build her company. I watched her emerge and blossom in her purpose as a filmmaker, and just being just cheering for her, and also being astounded at the same time at just like how clear she is. So seeing that company build and grow, and then making my film, I knew that this would be a great home for the film, but you still got to submit it. You got to get it in front of Tulane, you know, the president of her company. You got to get it in front of the whole team, and they have to decide. So I knew that they had a screener linked to the film, and I was told that they were reviewing it and they would get back to me. And about 2 weeks later, my phone rang, and it was Ava herself, who I hadn't spoken to in many years. I hadn't talked to her. And she said, "Hi, it's Ava." First she said, "Why are you using her white person voice?" Because I answered the phone.
Voice?
I didn't recognize the.
Does it sound different than this one? Are you using your white person voice?
Well,
now?
I don't. It probably sounded a little bit different because I didn't recognize the numbers. I didn't know it was calling me, so I was like, "Hello," like I can't really. Hello, like I don't know how I did it, but she was like, "Hi, Numa, it's Ava DuVernay. Why are you using her white person voice? I've been meaning to call you. My team, we reviewed the film, and we love it." She told me she was proud of me, and that her team wanted to put their Black woman elbow grease into distributing the film, and I screamed. I let out the highest pitch scream, you know, that you can imagine. And then she just started breaking down exactly what they wanted to do with it, which included being on Netflix. So, you know, I just continued to scream, and I'm kind of still screaming in my head right now, thinking about how awesome it is. Because it's on Thursday, and the world is going to see this, and I feel like so many people are going to connect in some way to this story, and it's the best decision I ever made for myself, is to just come forward with this and put my artistry right in front.
So you learned your craft.
Mm-hmm.
You developed and maintained your relationships.
Yeah.
And you produced something that was quality.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep. So, no, I'm putting out the blueprint for success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Thursday, the culmination.
Yes.
All right. So what's next for Numa Perrier? What I know you got another script up your sleeve.
I do. I
know you
have. Well, I've always worked from a really personal space, and I have another personal story that I'm going to tell. It's called Blood Mother, and it's about my adoption. It's about a woman who reunites with her blood mother in Haiti, and that was my story as well.
Wow.
But this time I would play my mother, and it's a
Oh.
thriller.
What?
Yeah, because some scary things
we're
happened
gonna do it in
down
Haiti?
there. We'll see. We might have to do it in a place that looks like Haiti. I don't know. Things are
Wow.
interesting there right
Yeah.
now, but that is my next personal film. There's other things that are going
Do you have
on
a
as
title?
well.
Or you gonna
Blood
keep-
Mother.
Blood Mother. You did say that. Okay. I just need that to sit.
Mhm.
What's the thriller though?
The thriller part is not knowing which mother to trust.
Oh, I see
The
what
one
you
that
did with
raised you or
Oh, the-
your blood mother.
that. Okay, Numa's got some stuff. Numa Perrier. All right, we appreciate what you're doing, and I love that this is a happy ending. This is even the dominatrix money sister we're gonna talk off mic about
Yes.
in a minute because I'm for a friend of a friend, right? So
friend of a
I need
friend.
to find out how one becomes one of those. But we're gonna tune in, and this is how we support y'all. When it comes out, first time it comes out, when it hits Netflix, hit play.
Yes, that's right.
Let that sucker run.
Let her run.
Come back,
Come
hit
back
play
later.
again.
Yeah.
Watch again.
Do it again.
Because algorithms are everything.
They are.
And we need to support with intentionality. So
Absolutely.
that's what we're going to do Thursday. I can't wait to hit play
Thank you.
on Jezebel. And it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Right. Numa Perrier. Follow
Yes.
her at Miss Numa on the Twitters and hashtag Jezebel movie on Thursday when we talk about it.